Hello, everybody, and welcome along to the Championship Check-In podcast. We are a day late this week. We apologise for some childcare issues, which both Sam and I have kids exactly the same age. So I'm sure all you parents out there will empathise with. And Sam, a blockbuster weekend. We've got so much to talk about with round 34.
Feels quite a long time ago now, doesn't it? That Leeds and Leicester were taken to the field, but I didn't think it disappointed. And after me suggesting there was going to be 10 home wins at the weekend, I think there was a nice splattering of away wins as well. So, difficult weekend to call. I was going to say emphasised in the scorings in our prediction little game, but I did particularly well this week.
I haven't checked them. Am I in for a nasty surprise here?
It's mine a little rib shot, not too nasty, mate. You got to be honest. The way I went, you've got away relatively lightly because there was a few.
Got away with one.
Do you know what? There's one.
There's Rotherham the other day, yeah.
There is one I haven't gone back over and checked. Actually, I need to check the audio just to make sure because my result is kind of scribbled down in my pad, but. I can do that at a later date, and if I need to add 2 additional points, that'll be beautiful.
Let's go through these results, and then we're looking for a Parkin's pick. Coventry 0, Preston 3 was a bit of a wow to open up the weekend, and a giant wow was the incredible game between Leeds and Leicester that had a bit of everything. The first against second, Leeds 3, Leicester 1. Nothing between Hull and West Brom 1-1. Potential playoff matchup, that one. We'll get Sam's take on that later in the show. Blackburn 1, Norwich 1. All of those results playing Preston's favour, which we might talk about Leicester later. Cardiff 2, Stoke 1, which we'll definitely talk about later. Ipswich 3, Birmingham 1, 4 on the bounce for Town. Borough 0, Plymouth 2. They're best away team in the league now, aren't they? There you go. QPR 2, Rotherham 1. And check Sam Parkin's facial expression here. QPR out of the bottom 3. How about that? Sheffield Wednesday 2, Bristol City 1. Check Sam Parkin's facial expression here. Southampton 1, Millwall 2. What a shocker. Sunderland 1, Swansea 2. And Watford 1, Huddersfield 2. Big Val on the verge. So we are hearing. And we are on the verge of finding out what is Parkin's pick. Talk to me, Sam.
Well, we're going to have a natter about whether the title race is indeed back on.
So we're going to go through team by team, but just give me a yes or no answer. This narrative of Leicester first, 2 from 3 second, are we moving away from that right at this moment in time?
Yeah, percentage-wise, I think, I'm kind of creeping towards there potentially being a bit more of life in it. I think if you asked the most ardent of Leicester City supporters, I would suggest there's a little bit of fear there that maybe wasn't there a month ago. Fear is probably the wrong word, but reality that, it could be automatic promotion, but there may be a little fight on their hands for the title. I'm saying it, obviously, I'm whispering it a little bit just because thinking back to Friday, it was quite reminiscent of that Ipswich game, the way it left me feeling, the Ipswich game at Leicester. I thought Leicester were really, really good. And I thought they controlled it. I thought they executed their game plan really well. And I actually thought, and I'm not one for going after referees, I thought that was a terrible, terrible decision to disallow the Daka goal.
Is that on the linesman, Sam?
Whoever it's on, the referee or the linesman. I couldn't believe they couldn't see that. I couldn't believe it. Just even the.
Can I hold my hands up? I needed the replay. I thought Chowdhury headed it, but I'm not an ex-pro, so I probably can't tell the angles like you can.
Maybe it was one of those optical illusions, at full speed, because it didn't seem to get the headlines, get the amount of conversation I probably thought it determined. I thought it was a really bad decision, and I think the game's probably done at that point. I know Leeds had a good spell towards the tail end of the first half, but I thought Leicester were superior in all departments until the last 15 minutes. And I think everyone watching it, there was a sense of inevitability that those goals would come.
Yeah.
And yeah, huge credit to Leeds for that. I think I've played there 3 or 4 times. Of course, the fans make a massive difference. It's incredibly unique. I love that city. Actually, I spent a lot of my 20s in Leeds, so I'm well versed in what those fans can do, and you have to credit them. But I thought on the night that Leicester were far and away the better side, so that's why it's hard for me to envisage that they're not going to respond and take victories. But after QPR, the next 5 teams in the top half: Sunderland away, Hull away, the massive game against Southampton, and then Bristol City and Norwich. So absolutely, in the near future, the tougher games are 100% for Leicester and probably for Southampton, and Leeds and Ipswich have the kindest next kind of 5 games. So I think the points will probably be cut even further.
Interesting. Let's work our way up from 4th to 1st then. So, I mean, just the most illogically logical Championship result. Of course, Millwall are going to bring back Neil Harris and go and win at Southampton with whatever % possession they have. How concerned are you, Sam, about Southampton after the undefeated streak? And we felt a bit silly saying, oh, have the fixtures been a bit soft? We tiptoed around that, didn't we, through that run? But it is very clear now that they are backloaded with the only head-to-heads towards the end of the season all involve Southampton now, and they've got to go away to all of the big opponents at the top. Is there a concern now, if you're Southampton, that the 22-game streak was a peak, and maybe the 5 points now is going to be an issue to catch back up?
Yeah, I think there's something in that. I think we spoke about it potentially being too early, and I don't normally buy into that. The runs come too early, but it is a long, arduous season. So to continue in that vein was always unrealistic. They had won 15 out of 17 games against teams below 13. So the 2 games they hadn't won had been draws. So this was a complete anomaly. I don't like the term flat track bullies, which seems to be... I was
just going to ask you that, whether that was a pertinent terminology.
That seems to be the modern terminology for it. I don't like that really, but you look at the statistics, they've been immaculate in these games. So it's a little bit of one-off. You look at the nature of the goals as well. Not to say that Millwall didn't do brilliantly well. I thought their game plan was excellent. I think it must have been to saturate the middle of the pitch. Just don't allow Southampton to play through you. Don't allow them to find the extra man, and therefore no
Flynn Downs as well, who they're missing.
Yeah, I think Smallbone played the deepest midfielder, but obviously that means your wide players, your fullbacks, have got to be immaculate for Millwall. And I think they did a fine job to stop the wingers of Southampton, who have been obviously a big part of their success, whoever's out there for them. So I thought it was a really good game plan, but a couple of really scrappy goals, possible goalkeeping error, and then a slightly dubious penalty. Good, decent spot. It probably was, but some days you wouldn't get that given. So I think they just got to write that one off. Next couple of games are relatively kind, and then it's a really hard run that they're gonna face, and we're gonna see if they can pull it out in those big games against the heavyweight sides in the division. But yeah, I would be concerned if they can go again. I think that's natural. After
and Sam, this season, when you say go again against what's going on, that means you've got to win 8 in 11 or something, doesn't it? It's just 2 points per game or whatever isn't going to be enough this season. So going again, they need a winning streak, don't they?
Yeah, and I think when you're like, players don't buy into it too much. The records that they're breaking and stuff like that. But I do think it has a little bit of an effect when you take that kind of rib shot again, a couple of defeats, and it's like, God, we got to go on. We got to win 4 or 5 on the spin now. Ipswich have clearly had their difficult period. They're motoring again now, and they've got some decent looking games as well. So I do think psychologically it may have a little bit of an impact. The majority of footballers are quite free spirited and just basically get ready for the next game without worrying about too much. But I think there would have been an excitement when they were on that tremendous run. Everyone was talking about them. All of a sudden, that's kind of diminished over the last 3 weeks. 3 defeats in 4. So it's going to be a tough ask, but they've got good enough players, haven't they, to string some results together again.
Speaking about Ipswich, just to touch on them, can we put this down to, you mentioned the slip, it was 1 win in 9 in the EFL, and I don't think that even factors in the dreadful defeat against Maidstone in the FA Cup. Is this simply explainable away to say smallest squad, did business in January to bring Sarmiento, Kiefer Moore to replace Hurst. You got Burgess back. You got Morsey back from his suspension, and bit of tiredness, I think. Really lucky to beat Rotherham, in my opinion. I was at the game, so you can debate that with me over on my vlog of that one. 5 games in 14 days. To get through that with 4 wins is excellent. And I totally agree with you. Ipswich have just got to now hang in and try and capitalise on the next 5 games, which are reasonably okay. Plymouth, Bristol City, Cardiff, and Sheffield Wednesday in good form. Blackburn, because then, Sam, if they're still in April, wow, Southampton, Norwich, Watford, Middlesbrough, Coventry is the next 5. So are they... So 2 questions, Sam. Sorry, it's a bit long-winded. Do you see them now being back where they were in the middle of December? And is it just get through these next 5 games and get to April still in the mix?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you answered the question in your question. No, I think you're right. Sorry. I think the players that have come in, absolutely. I think there's going to be a degree of maybe madness to their games, but they won't mind that. 17 goals in the last 6? I think that's far and away the best in the league over that period, even more than Leeds United, who are incredibly free scoring at the moment. So yeah, players coming back. The games are tough. The games were tough for 2 months? They were all stacked in there. I know there were some points dropped, but that it probably started with that Derby draw at Portman Road, and then the weeks after that they didn't subside. So the games were really hard. 1 win in 9 was obviously a real disappointment considering the position they were in. But I look at the next round of games with the additions to the squad, and I don't see any reason why they can't get to maybe that Blackburn away, Southampton at home week on the tails of Leeds, or maybe even slightly closer to Leicester. I don't know if they'll be able to surpass Leeds, given that their games are quite kind as well. But I think they'll probably still be in with a shout after the next 5, which is credit to Kieran McKenna, because I thought it was going to be the biggest test of his young managerial career, getting them back remotivated and focused. And it would have been quite easy to have fallen away and be closer to West Brom than they are the leaders.
Talk to me then about Leeds. And again, I want this podcast to try and not just tread over the same ground everybody else is, but what is the psychology now? I mean, because you just can't deny any of the numbers from January the 1st. Leeds are the best team in the league. They've won 9 games in a row. There's no point us just repeating those numbers. What is the psychology going forward now when you're on such a winning streak? Do you almost want it to, okay, let's draw a game and then go on another one, because that then becomes bigger than everything else? How do you see the sort of Leeds approach, and how long do you see this win streak going?
I think they'll be incredibly excited and enthused after that win on Friday. I think that's biggest of the lot, isn't it? Which is quite an obvious thing to say considering where they're positioned. I think they could probably do without Chelsea on Wednesday night, is my honest truth, especially when you're seeing the team news filtering out yesterday. I think Daniel Farke did his press conference. So you're talking about a knock for Somerville, Bamford and Rutter, I think, who all of a sudden has probably surpassed Somerville as maybe their most important player.
Oh, Sam, it's no coincidence that game turned when he started getting on the ball, didn't it?
Yeah, and something like really kind of poetic about the way he moves and he can open up defenses. It's almost like the way I try to play as a youngster. And I know people watching this will look and think, what are you talking about? You're an old-fashioned number 9. But when I was younger, my dad kind of knocked it into me that run at people, be unpredictable. I'm a bigger guy than Ruta, certainly, but defenders hate having big guys that can also handle the ball running at them. If you've got that physicality and you can also have a decent touch and you can move them and produce a little step over. So I love that about him. He'll give the ball away, but he makes so many opportunities for his team. So he'd be the one I'd be most concerned about, probably, him coming out of the reckoning at the moment. I think you can get away without Bamford. You could probably get away without Somerville maybe for a game or two because you played Nonto and James wide, or Anthony. So, I'd be interested to see how they go tomorrow. I'm going to be there at Stamford Bridge, so I'll give you probably a more detailed answer on maybe the psychology. I expect them to go well. Probably expect Chelsea still to win because the game is bigger for them 100% after the weekend's shenanigans in Carabao Cup and in the Championship. But I think they'll be feeling incredibly confident about the next few games. And I almost want to go back on my prediction that they might not falter in these next ones. I just think Huddersfield at home is a difficult game for them. I think maybe tactically, surprise element as well from a new manager going in. But I think Leeds will go there very confident that they can win the game. But I think that's going to be a tricky one. I think it'll only be a goal margin if they are to get maximum points, which I wouldn't have said a month ago.
Well, there you go. That's a little look at the top 4 and the title race, which we have to say is really, really delivering, Sam. And just to round this out, Leicester are projecting 105.5 points. Leeds and Ipswich, 97.41. And Southampton would be 4th on 90.65. So whatever happens, we're going to get some amazing points totals. And we'll see if we get some amazing drama or everything kind of plays out and stays how it is. Let's move on, Sam, to a not very vintage Worldie of the Week chat. Mate, you're going to have to make, what's the saying, chicken salad out of chicken shit here. Not the greatest round of goals for us. Can you give us 2 minutes on Worldie of the Week, or do we need to move on?
Yeah, we can have a long conversation about it if you want, mate. My first thought was, why have you not got Carvalho on that list, right? When you sent me some notes, but then I remembered that I was watching it on a grainy little monitor on the gantry at Selhurst Park, right? And I was actually doing something on the radio when the goal went in.
At Selhurst Park?
I was doing the Palace Burnley game for the radio on Saturday, but I was actually doing an EFL chat with 5 Live, and the goal went in on the monitor, and Troy Deeney, there's a name drop, was 2 seats to my left, and he started poking me like that when the goal went in, even though I was trying to concentrate on my little bit. So it wasn't until yesterday.
Hit the ball really hard.
It wasn't until yesterday I looked it back, and I'm presuming that he's not in the reckoning because Alex Palmer, our goalkeeper of the first 6 months of the season,
your goalkeeper of the
was
first
he mine?
6 months? Yeah.
So is that why he's not on there? Because he chucked it in to a degree?
Yeah, he should have saved it, Sam, shouldn't he?
Okay.
I mean, Carvalho hits it really hard, and we love Carvalho, but we like Palmer as well, hence his inclusion there. Have I caveated that enough? But no, I didn't think that was worthy.
All right, so I'm going to give you a few little honourable mentions. I went through them yesterday. Chaplin's really nice flick for
borderline on the offside there.
Yeah, it did look offside, didn't it? But very clever. Hardy's movement, I love, and his finish as well up at Middlesbrough. Ronald for Swansea, his second, brilliant touch. Good finish as well. I thought Nunez's was an excellent free kick, but I'm tired of free kicks. We've given too many.
Can we just give Norwich an honourable mention? They're literally second place in Worldie of the Week every week, aren't they?
Are they? Oh, I remember Johnny Rowe getting my first award of the season. Anyway, I think that's everyone. Ward header, really good header at Vicarage Road, like that one as well. I'm going to go for EK Ugbo this week, and I'll tell you for why. Brilliant double. What a great brace. I thought there were two excellent goals. Real confident strikers goals. Someone who you would anticipate has been scoring, 15, 20 goals in the EFL season after season.
He's
I felt
bloody on
that
fire at the moment, isn't he?
I thought that really emphasised, where he is at the moment. So 5 in 7, but I particularly like the first, wasn't it? The touch was absolutely sublime, and then just kind of bent in the finish on his weaker left foot. So it's more probably for the touch than the execution of the finish, but probably in a rounded way of saying he is bang at it at the moment. And some of his goals have been like 6-yard box, sniffing out chances, far post, a bit scrappy. That one was anything but. So I'm going to go for my old mucker from Chelsea's academy, EK Ugbo.
EK Ugbo is the worldie of the week, and we hope, Sam, we're going to be blessed with some volleys, bicycle kicks, passing moves. What was the Boys Burns thing called?
Trivella.
A Trivella, a chip,
Trivella.
Anything above for next round. But yeah, I think it's a worthy mention of Ugbo as well, who could potentially be the key man in, well, we're going to talk about the relegation scrap in just a minute, but could be a real key man for Sheffield Wednesday. With that being said, Sam, let's move on to our cause for concern. Fairly obvious one, this, Sam, isn't it?
Well, yeah, we did it about a month ago, didn't we? And spoke about 4 clubs. We're going to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I reckon. Which of these 10 clubs, 9 clubs, are going to join Rotherham in being relegated? Have I written them off too soon? I started getting worried there. Surely Rotherham can't survive. But anyway, what we got? 10 teams possibly in the relegation mix now?
To your first point, Rotherham do look cooked, don't they? If you got 19 points after 34 games, and the way the tide is rising now, and Sam, just absolutely unprecedented. If you're on the YouTube video now, look at the form guide and look at the most recent game, which is furthest over to the right, and you will see that in the bottom half of the championship, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, the bottom 11 teams, including 4 of the bottom 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the bottom 11 won this round, which is just completely unprecedented, Sam. We've been on the radar, as much as people like to make up that we don't mention these teams. They're selectively misremembering it and have a chip on their shoulder. We've been all over Sheffield Wednesday since December in great form. QPR also in fantastic form. Huddersfield 3 wins in 5, and the first one for Andre Brighton-Writer. Great win for Swansea as well. Let's save Stoke for the end, Sam, because that's obviously the elephant in the room. And no disrespect to Rotherham, but I agree with you. Do you want to talk about Sheffield Wednesday and QPR?
Yeah, well, I think that's just been more of the same, hasn't it? Really, from the impact the managers have had. I think there was clearly a period at QPR under Marty Cifuentes where they kind of lost their way, similar to maybe Southampton, different ends of the table. But when you have that initial momentum and you have that confidence and then you lose a few, I think that hindered them. I think January was massive for QPR. I think that's probably the main difference between them and Sheffield Wednesday. I think they've been hugely boosted by the signings, QPR. I think just the influx of some new players can just breathe new life. And I think there's the opportunity to give Dykes a bit of a break now. I think midfield has been such a problem area for QPR, I think, going back many a year. So to have Hayden there now, to have Hodge on loan, to have Anderson that they've brought in, I think gives them a real strength there and allows probably Chair Willock. I know Smith came on and had a really good impact at the weekend. Got a brilliant goal. He was going to be mentioned actually in the Worldie of the week, probably more
mainly
so
for the assist.
Yeah, Chris Willock. The second one actually was a bit deceiving, Willock's one, because you think, oh, that's a hell of a strike, and then the keeper's kind of dived out the way of it. But yeah, 2 excellent goals. So I think January combined with the manager could prove to be the ingredients that keep QPR in the division. And Danny Rowe, I think, is very versatile in terms of his tactics, been different shapes for different games.
He's going to be in the conversation for manager of the year, surely, when we're at the end of this, if he keeps them up from where they were. Wow.
Yeah, and all the criticism that has gone Sheffield Wednesday's way because of the ownership and the way that they've
rightly so.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, rightly so. But I just more mean, it's been one way, hasn't it? And there's been zero credit probably given, I don't know, outside of Sheffield Wednesday to maybe this appointment. I don't know who made the appointment. I don't know exactly who's identified Danny Rowe, but my goodness me, it seems to have been a brilliant decision, and he seems to be a great fit. So, I think both of those teams have consistently been in the ascendancy, and that's why we're having that conversation, because all those teams that we thought were safe a month ago pretty much are dragged back into contention for sliding into League One.
Right, we'll stop at the bottom 6 because else we'll be here all day. But before we talk about the elephant in the room that is Stoke City, Millwall and Huddersfield, Sam, obviously new managers going in literally in the past sort of week or so there. With Millwall, are you thinking, okay, it's been a bit chaotic, hasn't it? But Neil Harris is a very familiar, safe pair of hands there, and the squad is clearly better than being relegated, isn't it? I would suggest. And then Huddersfield, are they going to get a little tick from the new manager bounce there as well?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think with Millwall, I don't think there's any argument really to suggest that Neil Harris was a safer bet in keeping Millwall in the division than Joe Edwards. I don't think anyone would argue that, and I don't think that was part of my analysis last week at all. I would never dream of saying that, given his history, his different style. I think the way that he wants to play essentially right now is gonna garner more points.
That works well for a get away from the bottom scrap.
Of course it does. Yeah, of course it does. I think my frustration, and not because I know both the chaps relatively well, or I've spent time with both of them, obviously not for a few years, but my frustration probably at it from the outside and going and watching loads of Millwall games is that I see the flaws in what they do, Millwall. I see the flaws and the gaps in their squad, but I think for what currently they've got signed, Neil Harris will absolutely get enough points, and I'll be fascinated to see what he can do next season if he's in the division and handed the keys to mould the squad a little bit more. In a one-off season, they could very much have a go again next year under him, which would be an amazing U-turn. But yeah, we'll see what happens on that front. But I think they're probably going to continue to the way they won there, the amount of supporters they had at Southampton, the way it's going to make them feel before the next flurry of home games. They'll be really excited. They'll get behind the team, and even if maybe they get an indifferent result or two, I think they're going to be they'll probably be too strong to be down the real bottom for too long.
Did you want to touch on Huddersfield before we talk about Stoke?
Yeah, I fancied them, didn't I? At Watford, probably didn't expect Danny Ward to come on. Yeah, that's the one that I'm a little bit uncertain about, because I think I had them down as 2-1, and then I got a little bit greedy and put 3-1 down. So
that's my memory of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know why I did that. I probably didn't anticipate Danny Ward coming on, who I wouldn't say has been someone I've singled out and wanted to give a little bit of stick to, but I just felt they've been so undercooked, in the forward positions, especially centre forward, that he's had to kind of carry that mantle for probably too long. And I felt going into this season with him as being kind of the one out and out forwards they would need to add, which they have done latterly. But yeah, still a bit surprised to see him come on and still being able to do it and still being able to grab points. So well done him. Couple of really clever finishes actually. The second one was good as well. But I think they was on the right road, weren't they, under John Worthington? I thought they'd shown that they could attack a little bit more. They'd be a bit more free spirited, and the new coach seems to have adopted that as well. So yeah, I something just tells me that will probably prove to be a wise decision as well to change. Firstly, but then also to make this permanent appointment now, just to give them a little bit more kind of a kick up the backside.
Okay, we've delayed it enough now. Stoke City are in the bottom three now. This is really incredible to me because I know Stoke have baffled us over the years, and particularly on this podcast, Sam, we kind of joked, we say the opposite. They always seem to end up back in trouble somehow. But I have to say, this is big alarm bells now. Big alarm bells. We've got 12 to go. They're in the bottom three with Sheffield Wednesday and QPR clearly playing better than them. And you made a good point, Sam, about managerial hires that have worked. And you're right to say, Cifuentes, QPR, trend up. Danny Roll, Sheffield Wednesday, trend up. And as much as I'm a giant fan of Stephen Schumacher and, 101 points for Plymouth last year, this is really not working. And the vibe I've got, Sam, is I don't know if you were probably too busy being a footballer at this point or starting to be a footballer. I remember Man City coming down to first division as it was then rather than the Championship. And it was mental that they were even there in the first place. They were such a big club. And they got relegated. And about, 10, 12 games from the end of the season, you're like, this is absolute chaos. They're going to drop, aren't they? Are you getting any of that vibe about Stoke, or will they just be sensible and turn this around now?
I'm not getting Manchester City vibes about them because I remember playing against Stoke in the third tier, probably around about the period you're talking about when I was starting out. So, and they were always like so incredibly well supported, and it was such a difficult game when you went there. Really loud, I used to find the Britannia. But yeah, it's not working. 3 wins in 12, I think. I think the massive problem right now is probably the home form, even though they beat QPR relatively recently. I didn't actually know just how indifferent the form had been in front of their own supporters until maybe a couple of weeks ago. So that's a massive problem. And goal scoring all of a sudden, when you think about why Stephen Schumacher has been brought in, what his strength has previously been as a manager, is to be pretty open, expansive, attack-minded, create chances.
Ruthless, weren't they, Plymouth, Sam?
Ruthless, but just his teams, they want to attack, don't they? They want to commit bodies into the box, and I think it just basically tells us that a hell of a lot has been done wrong in the transfer market. They seem to have bought some duds, some bad characters. I haven't got the team in front of me from last week, but I did have it in my notes from Saturday morning. Even just looking at the makeup of his team last time out told me that he's lost trust with a lot of these new signings that were brought in from different parts of Europe in the summer. So much so that he's had, I think Kundal played as a 10 the other day. He had an 18-year-old up front. There's no consistency in the selection. And that's not having a go at the manager at all. It's the opposite. I think there's so many players there that either aren't up to it or are wildly underperforming. So I don't know how they're going to get themselves out of it, but I think the majority absolutely want Stephen Schumacher to ride this and to be the one to rebuild in the summer. Obviously, it'll be catastrophic if they drop a division, but I think there seems to be a real want and a real support, which is not always the case for this manager. And I think the majority of that just stems from his demeanour, his comments, and probably the fact that the disappointment and the frustration is directed at the players more than the manager at the moment.
And yeah, real on a knife edge, isn't it, for Stoke? And if the if the trends continue, they will get relegated, which is crazy to say. And Sam, just to round it out, things change in football. Surprises happen. If you go back to the clip we put out 3-4 weeks ago, we were looking at it's 3 teams from 4, but completely different landscape at the bottom there now, and we're looking at a high tide, Sam, and someone's going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time with a fairly decent points total and go down this season, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's difficult to, when you look at it right now, Stoke 100% would probably be the cause for concern, but we've done them so many times. And I think they were my Parkin's pick at the start of the season. But you just look at every team in that bottom half. You can see Birmingham, because they've got a little bit of unpredictability in the forward line now. I think they've got some good players. You could see them, they won back-to-back, didn't they, before the defeat at Ipswich. You can see them pulling that result. I could see Blackburn being quite hard to beat. Swansea really got their act together the other day. The teams that down the bottom that are around Stoke, other than Rotherham, have all got their act together, it would seem. So Stoke are the one that this morning, as we speak, are sticking out like a beacon. Is that a phrase? So yeah, I'd be hugely concerned about them ahead of the next couple of games, because you can't see where that consistency is coming from, and the others are chalking up wins, even if it's not win. Sheffield Wednesday and QPR have been kind of in this way, a little bit inconsistent, but picking up wins.
And that's what's so fascinating, Sam, is that Sheffield Wednesday, last thing we'll say on this, in the bottom 3, completely not performing like a bottom 3 side at all. And, maybe we'll get at least one surprise. We might get 2 surprises, and we might get a really unlucky one, I think. But let's move on from that. We'll clip that one out, and you can compare and contrast. We'll link the other one as well at the end of the clip, so you can check back our conversations. As ever, Sam, we say how we feel at the time, and things can change, and our comments will hopefully echo that. Let's move on to our meltdown moment. Sam, fans make a lot of the etiquette of shaking hands post-game. We're going to talk about Russ Martin snubbing Mateusz Sarkic, wasn't it, the Millwall keeper's handshake at the end of the game, clearly frustrated. I've got 2 questions for you. The first one is a personal one. Did you ever snub the etiquette of shaking hands with your opponent after the game has finished? And the second one, do fans make a bit much of it? Is it all a bit of theatre at the end and not really important? Or is it important that you respect your opponent and shake their hand every game, regardless of how you feel?
Yes would be my answer to your first 2 questions. Yeah, I've always had needle and refused to shake people's hands.
I've never had any needle with you, Sam.
The fans probably do make too much of it. Yeah, I think I was going to say like lines get crossed, but I mean, that sounds ridiculous. Just sometimes it's the heat of the moment, I think naturally takes over. I remember playing against an old kind of teammate of mine from Chelsea, Pat Baldwin. He was at Colchester, I was at Swindon, and we kicked each other for 90 minutes. Quite a lot got said. I didn't really like the way he conducted himself. They spanked us 3-0, I think, at the county ground. So it was a disastrous day for me personally and for the team. But I got really wound up by him and just stormed off, basically. And then about 5 years later, we became teammates at Exeter City and became big mates. So you never hold that grudge, really. But yeah, I mean, yeah, copious. I was very much like, I'd be friendly, and then I'd give as good as I'd get for 90 minutes. And whether that would be, really physical battle, 100%, smashing into each other. I didn't like underhand tactics. You know what I mean? I didn't like people crossing the line, whacking you off the ball or whatever, stuff like that. Or, I don't know, like I remember when I lost a few teeth in a game and the next set piece, I had someone with their arm in my face, stuff like that. I just thought, underhand tactics, things that that were crossing the line a little bit. But 100%, if it was a game where you just give it to each other for 90 minutes, just smashing into each other, competing for everything, yeah, you 100%, you walk off and you shake hands. But it's not always like that. It's not always like that, and that's why people fall out on the football pitch. But it's interesting to see a manager do it.
Well, Sam, I was going to ask: is this, because the question I've been being asked is this evidence of Russ Martin psychologically struggling to cope with this title race? That's the way it's being framed. Oh, he's losing his head. Why is he behaving like that?
No, I would say Russell Martin has got such a clear vision about how he wants football to be played that if people do the kind of polar opposite, it really, really riles him. And like I do really admire him. I think I'd get on with him. I think he seems like a really nice fella. And I know some of the people that work with him, and they're really good guys. And obviously I do agree to an extent that his football's a great brand of football. It's not perfect, and early part of the season it was frustrating, and they weren't polished enough in playing out and stuff like that. But I do agree with quite a lot of his sentiment. But there's different ways to win football matches. I probably maybe have a bit more of angst, disappointment with the officials if they've been allowing the time wasting to go, or there's been a few heavyweight challenges that haven't been punished. That's not really on Millwall. Millwall have got to do everything in their power to disrupt Southampton and make it a scrap. That was the only way that Millwall could win that game. They can't out-football Southampton. Come on, let's get that right at the moment. Despite having, Fleming, a couple of good ball-playing individuals in their team, they had to do that. So it's naive to think otherwise. But I don't mind it. I don't hate it. I mean, what's the goalkeeper? I said it the other day with the lack of a handshake between Trey Hume and Mick Beale. I don't think I ever shook an opposition manager's hand in my career. Why is he trying to shake Russell Martin's hand? He's probably on the wind up to a degree. I haven't looked at the footage back too much, but I can't remember ever shaking hand with an opposition manager.
There we go. That is the meltdown moment of the week, and we are going to move on. We've looked back. We're now going to look ahead, which means above Sam's head, if you're watching on YouTube, is a lovely logo for our sponsors, Match Bingo. We'll talk to you about some offers Match Bingo I've got in the prediction show, and we appreciate everybody playing for free last night in the bumper Premier League game between loads of goals in that one as well, West Ham and Brentford. Sam, we are looking for a mouth-watering matchup. Fortunately, no 3-game week. Well, unless you're in the FA Cup. So here are your round 35 fixtures. I quite like this card. There's some good ones in here. Sam, West Brom, Coventry being one of them. That's a proper playoff shootout, isn't it? Bristol City versus Cardiff is a derby. The name I won't try and get because I always get wrong. Huddersfield versus Leeds is a kind of Yorkshire derby as well, isn't it? Birmingham v Southampton, fascinating that one, isn't it? After your comments about the top 4, Sam. Leicester versus Inform QPR, Millwall versus Watford. It's really good lineup. This Norwich versus Sunderland, Plymouth versus Ipswich. That was a ding-dong battle between those two last season. Preston versus Hull. Rotherham versus Sheffield Wednesday. Tremendous. Stoke versus Middlesbrough. Swansea versus Blackburn. Sam, lots of beautifully, evenly matched, narratively driven games. You got 3 seconds while I play the stinger here, and we go to your mouth-watering matchup. What are you thinking, fella?
We're going to do a bit of playoff chatter, aren't we? So therefore, I'm going to go for a resurgent Preston North End against a very impressive-looking Hull City.
So I had to make a public apology to Preston at the weekend after that 3-0 because every time you ask me, I'm like, no, Preston, they won't get the playoffs, will they? They're just a little bit weaker than the other squads around there. They had a outlandish start, which was unviable, which is padding the points total. But they're in really good form, Sam. And Emil Reese's return up front with Will Keane makes a big difference. You identified Mads Frokjer Jensen about 4 weeks ago. So nobody tell us we're not ahead of the curve here on this podcast. And they're just in really good form. And so are Hull City. And I thought it was one of those the Hull West Brom game, Sam, at the weekend. One of those between the two managers of, okay, we'll shake hands on a point, and maybe, just maybe, I'll see you in May. So this is a great setup, this Preston Hull, Sam.
Yeah, and if I'm being brutally honest, I would never have imagined that Preston North End could have turned it around like they have. I commentated on them a few times this season. I thought they completely lost their way about a month ago. I wouldn't have imagined this can happen. It feels like they've got everyone kind of back now. It kind of feels like the strike pairing absolutely is working. I thought Keane was immense in this game, actually. Getting turned, he's one of those a little bit. He doesn't have that, really sprightly movement. He hasn't got amazing pace, but I think he's one of those that can really handle the ball, and he can get turned, and he's not just kind of popping it off and playing safe at the moment. He's getting turned. We know Emil Reese does that naturally as well. So yeah, they're a good combination. I thought he was kind of unplayable, Keane, in that game, but two sides to it as well. It doesn't half help when you can race into a lead like that. But I thought they defended like the old Preston as well under Ryan Lowe. I thought there were some exceptional performances. McCann breaking it up in midfield. You know how much I like Whiteman. So I thought that was a very, very good performance from them. And I didn't imagine they would be capable of going again. I thought Ryan Lowe was under enormous pressure. I know Peter Risdale or someone at the club had come out in staunch defence of him about maybe 2 months ago and said he ain't going anywhere, like it or lump it. So 5 wins in 8, 4 wins in 5. They're right at it. And Hull are brilliant away from home. 4 straight wins, 3 straight 2-1 victories. I thought they were better, the front players. I thought they're starting to click, but I thought Philogene was a little bit quiet. So there's more to come for them. And, when you consider they're still kind of shoehorning these players in without a natural centre forward, that's only going to improve when Delap eventually returns. But I 100% agree with you. I noted that down. That was a point that both managers declared for the other day. It was cagey towards the tail end.
When Corberon put Ajayi and Chalobah on with 5 to go, I'm like, okay, we'll all pack up here. Then we're done.
I thought it was a little bit lethargic as well, which is maybe to be expected, given I think they've played 5 games in just over 2 weeks. Hull, so they looked a little bit leggy, and I think this game will be very similar to that game, and it will be similar to the game that was played out early in the season, which I think was 1-0, the reverse game. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be quite cagey when you consider what's up for grabs. Very, very difficult one to call, but I think it's right that I say Ryan Lowe's done really well to turn this around, because I thought he was probably the next manager to go, in truth. After Darren Moore went, I thought it would be difficult for Ryan Lowe to stay in charge there. If they'd have fallen into the bottom half and maybe finished 13th, 14th again this season, I thought that would probably be his lot. So he's done brilliantly.
We've been spoilt, Sam, with the fixtures. Oh, that might be giving something away for a minute's time, mightn't it? Ignore that if you just saw what we put up on Footmob. But what I was going to say, it's completely ruining the next segment of the show. Thank you, everybody. Is we've been really spoilt with the fixtures because you get a little mini league at the moment. We had obviously Coventry and Preston last week, and Hull and West Brom. This week we've got Hull and Preston and Coventry and West Brom. So they're really and I mean this in the nicest possible way. These are teams chasing the top 6. So there's something not quite functioning as perfectly as, maybe some of the teams in the top 6 are in terms of winning, but a great little kind of sort of week of games for us it'll give you and I a load of information when we're, we're at 10 games to go and we're trying to pick our 5th and 6th, won't it?
It's going to be really harsh in it and really tough to take for the ones who do miss out, because I think all of these guys that are up there jostling for the playoff positions would really add something to the playoffs. Granted, there's probably only 2 positions that they're fighting for. Yeah, I mean, kind of looking at 4 teams now, aren't we? I think it would be an unbelievable achievement if Sunderland could put some consistency together now. Yeah, they've got good players, but I thought, the weekend probably showed that there's going to be a weakness there, that they're going to be a little bit flawed maybe in the weeks ahead, with possibly a bit of uncertainty, upheaval. Just think that's going to be difficult. So yeah, we're probably talking about 4, aren't we? Preston, Norwich, Hull, and West Brom, who all of them, I think, could get their acts together and be real tough opponents in the playoffs. So it's anyone's game at the moment, isn't it?
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we love the end of season knockout tournament. See, I'm already on the defensive, Sam, this early in the season about people telling me the playoffs are unfair and the top 3 should go up. No.
Do you know what, though?
Talking about?
After everything I've just said there, this is probably this is a massive weekend for Coventry and Preston, isn't it? I think Preston maybe in particular. I don't know why I say that. I just think Coventry have been on such an upward trajectory for quite a long time. There's obviously been peaks and troughs in Preston's season, massive peaks and troughs. So I think if they could get a win here, they could start seriously thinking about the playoffs. I still think internally they'll probably think it's a bit of an outside chance. It's a bit of an outside chance. I think if they could back up that win at Coventry with another statement win, they can start thinking that they've got a great chance.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And I'm sure you'll all totally agree that I've completely spoiled the player to watch coming up. Let's go to our Swansea's Brazilian player to watch, Sam. Oh dear, what a faux pas by me. Never mind. He scored twice at the weekend. There's no O on the end of it. We love a Brazilian. Joined in the transfer window for over £1 million, I think. Sam, this is Ronald Pereira, and he is our player to watch.
Yeah, I did the Swansea Leeds game, if you remember, a couple of weeks ago. So I asked the commentator how he was going to pronounce him, and he did say Ronald, like that. I think.
Okay.
But we
what was the
we
one
went a little bit.
I refused on. It was Chifuenteth or something, wasn't it? I'm not doing it, Sam.
We went. To be honest, during like the flow of the game, we went a bit safe and probably just called him Ronald. But Ronald, I think, is how you throw it in. Yeah, I think amongst a few others, a clear idea where maybe the hierarchy at Swansea felt they were short, probably this season and last, definitely have lacked out and out wide players. And if you think of Swansea, hugely successful periods, Routledge comes to mind. Scott Sinclair, Nathan, why am I forgetting his surname? Dyer. There you go. Even back to the days of Mark Gower, my mucker, who I think played wide left for a period, hugging the touchline, loads of possession, final third, go and express yourselves, be direct, have pace, have directness. That, I think, partly because they've been more a 3-5-2, wing-back supplying the width, clearly. Or 3-4-3 or whatever, they haven't really had the necessity to have great speed merchants or tricky wide players, and I think that's what they went to recruit in the window. So yeah, really enthused with this signing. I don't think he was particularly good in that Leeds game. He had very few touches, actually, very few involvements.
Didn't they, Sam?
Yeah, I think I looked up the touches, actually. It was something insane. I think in the first half, because they've been so dominant, Leeds, I think the Leeds front three, Swansea front three had something like 19 or 20 touches. And I think, they're probably the bottom of that list for Leeds' front players that had more. So collectively, they were hardly in the game. But he came to life here, didn't he, at the weekend? 2 really good goals. The first goal, actually, I think, is the one that we probably need to spend a bit more time maybe looking at, because it's a pass and move from the back. The way they played out Swansea, the way that Luke Williams is going to want his team to play. We saw it probably for the first time. And with that, the second one, great control, great finish from Ronald. The first time I think they've been 2 goals to the good under Luke Williams. So maybe a slight reason as to why they were able to see this one over the line. 4 shots he had in the game. That's the most he's had. Hit the woodwork as well. Really direct for loads of Swansea attacks. And in terms of the makeup of Swansea's team, I was just interested to see Joe Allen and Cole Norton back in there. And all of a sudden, you've picked up a slightly surprising away win. And
very much needed, given what we've said about all the bottom half winning, though, right?
Massively, yeah. Enormous win for him when you're looking at that bottom half. And I say surprised, they were really good value for it. Really good value. I mean, it could have been 3 or 4-0 in the first half. So yeah, much needed. And for him as well, I know Plaheta, is that how you pronounce it? I think I've butchered that. On the left-hand side. Plaheta, yeah. I think those two, to kick on and have important ends to the season, will make them garner more points, no doubt in my mind. So that was a big day, I think, for him, absolutely.
Here you go. Ronald is our player to watch, or Sam's very flamboyant Portuguese accent, which I'm failing at. Right, let's finish this podcast. The predictions will obviously be later in the week, but let's finish it with our lovely quiz, which Sam is pretty dominant in. It's time for the week that was. Okay, Sam, would you like to ask or be asked first? These are our questions from the brilliant Fev, who's got through all season. He said he's struggling for topics now, so they're going to get more flamboyant, which we kind of quite like as we go, don't we? So give Fev a follow at Fev's Football. Brilliant part of our podcast. Sorry, Sam. Ask or be asked?
I'm going to ask you, mate, yeah?
Oh, no.
So it's numbers week. So you're going to get a question. You're going to give me a number. And obviously, if one of us is bang on, we win. And it's going to be closest to takes the point.
For some numbers quickly, Sam, you are 15-12 in the lead.
15-12 up. All right, mate. So your question this week. In last weekend's games in the Champ, there were 35 goals. How many of those were scored by loanees?
Oh.
Remember, you just got to get closer to your answer than I do to mine. You're probably not going to be bang on, are you? But
so what's my logic, Sam?
Play your percentages.
Not that many, yeah. Surely the bulk of goals. Although I'm thinking about Amari Hutchinson for Ipswich being one of them.
You got one more than me off the top of your head, because I can't think of any loanees who've scored. But yeah, you are correct with that one, aren't you?
So I think it's going to be quite a low number then, Sam.
Okay.
So, but let's not stitch myself up here, because there's no lower bound if I go too low, is there? Which might stitch me up when seeing how close you get. I'm going to say 6. Do you want to leave the answer until you've answered yours?
Yeah, okay. Okay, you've said 6.
Right, so I've got 6. Sam, your question is very similar, and you were a decent player in the air, weren't you? How many goals in the last round out of the 35 were scored with headers?
Ooh.
I can think of the Leicester one off the top of my head.
Oh, thanks for that one. I can think of, just because I watched it yesterday, Dom Hyam, yeah? From a set piece against Norwich. Ugbo. The one you just said. There must have been a few more. Millwall, Tanganga. I think we're in the same ballpark. You said 6. I'm going to say, I need it to be within 2. So it was 35 goals.
Oh, is that how many I was away? You've given away my answer now.
Oh, sorry. Right. I'm going to go for nearly a third. I'm going to go for 10.
The look on my face, Sam, is one of crushing disappointment. Because if I'm 2 away, you are 1 away. Yeah, MFer. Deary me. Actually, I'm going to give you your flowers. That's a great shout. It's 11.
Was
And
it?
Said, I didn't think it'd be that many.
I thought you were going to say 9 there, to be honest. That surprises me.
Yeah. Oh, great question, Fev. And I'll give you your flowers on that one, Sam. That's a great shout. So you move in to 16-12. And if you want to see Sam and I get competitive with each other, we're going to film the predictions in a little bit for this week. And that will be out on either Wednesday or Thursday because we're a day behind. We will figure it out. And last word from you, Mr. Parkin.
I was just thinking, hopefully we'll have some better goals to discuss next week in the World of the Week, because that was a bit of a tough gig for me this morning. So come on, start bending them into the top corner, please, boys.
And we will see you next week on the Championship Chicken Podcast.